All right, you meat bags out there in the world. This is the Reverend Blackjack McBride from the Dust Bowl Metal Show. Today is a different kind of show, and I'm going to put on some talking music here. I don't know if that talking music's going to come through or not. Let's see. I don't even know if it's working. Let's see here. Oh, there it goes. All right. So, anyways, we're here to talk about what's going on in the world today and what you might get ready to expect here in the very, very near future. Obviously, everybody knows who became the President of the United States. For those of you that just logged in, I am talking about what's going on in the world today. I also have a live video streaming on Facebook on my regular page. I haven't made a page for We Are Doomed yet. I mean, it's not like I have all this time in the world. I mean, as busy as I am, you guys have no freaking idea what is entailed in putting together a U.S. tour the size that we are doing. It's 42 states and 72 dates so far. And I'm telling you, I mean, I hope I can do it. You know, I mean, that's 5 days a week. We're going to be pulling down a show, wearing all that gear that we wear. And it's definitely not going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination. So basically, you know, we're just going off the cuff here because I have a lot of things that I want to talk about. One being the American dollar, the USD. Everybody knows all too well. The USD, as most of you know, is a fiat currency. And you guys over there in the UK are dealing with the same thing. It's a fiat currency. The Rockefellers and the Rothschilds, they own all the banks across the world. And these people, these big bankers got together way back when and to start this World Bank, so to speak, and they wanted to make it sound like a federal entity, so they called it the Federal Reserve. And it's only a name. All that is a personally owned business by the elite bankers of the world. And they got together on Jekyll Island way back in the day. Jekyll Island. Creature from Jekyll Island. I'm going to type that in real quick. Creature from Jekyll Island. There we go. They got together back in the day. And all these big bankers, I mean, I'm going to see if I can find it. I don't know how fast I'm going to find it. Let's see here. The book was written by G. Edward Griffin. And if you've never read the book, I think it is really something that you should read. I know a lot of people don't read anymore. Everybody just goes on Facebook, you know, and Twitter, and they read whatever everybody writes, and it's not something that you guys need to be doing. You know, what you need to be doing is getting into them books and reading the truth, because most of what's posted on Facebook, or a good portion of it anyway, is all BS. Let's see, I'm trying to find let's see, what's this? Fool's Gold. Let's see here. The Rothschild formula is on page 217. Okay, so let's just go to 217. Where are we at? 48. 217. We're at 116. Oh, here's something that you guys really need to know about. Let's see if I can find this. This is crazy. I don't know if you ever heard about Lusitania or whatever it is. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that is the sister ship to the Titanic. Let's see. I'm looking for it right now. Let's see here. I'm sorry, guys. I should have had this ready before I started the show. It's my bad. The Lusitania was a British passenger liner that sailed regularly between Liverpool and New York. She was owned by the Cunard Company, which was previously mentioned was the only major ship line which was a competitor of the Morgan Cartel. J.P. Morgan. Okay. She left New York Harbor May 1st, 1915, and was sunk by a German submarine off the coast of Ireland 6 days later. Of the 1,195 people who lost their lives, 195 were Americans. It was the event, more than any other, that provided the advocate of war with a convincing platform for their views, and it became the turning point where Americans reluctantly began to accept, if not the necessity of war, at least its inevitability. Yeah, you think, okay, that's fine. I appreciate it. The fact that the Lusitania was a passenger ship is misleading. Although she was built as a luxury liner, her construction... Now, I'm going to get into depth of why this story is important. Okay, so stick around. Her construction specifications were drawn up by the British Admiralty, I think so that she would be converted, if necessary, into a ship of war. Everything from the horsepower of her engines and the shape of her hull to the placement of the ammunition storage areas were, in fact, military designs. She was built specifically to carry 12 6-inch guns. The construction costs for these features were paid for by the British government. Even in times of peace, it was required that her crew include officers and seamen from the Royal Navy Reserve. In May of 1913, she was brought back into dry dock and outfitted with extra armor, revolving gun rings on her decks, and shell racks in the hold for ammunition. Handling elevators to lift the shells into the guns were also installed. 12 high-explosive cannons were delivered to the dry dock. All this is a matter of public record at the National Maritime Museum in Greenwich, England. But whether the guns were actually installed at the time is still hotly debated. There is no evidence that they were. In any event, on September 17th, the Lusitania returned to sea, ready for the rigors of war, and she was entered into the Admiralty Fleet Register, not as a passenger liner, but as an armed auxiliary cruiser. From then on, she was listed as Jane's Fighting Ships, as an auxiliary cruiser, and in the British publication, the National Annual, is an armed merchantman. Part of the dry dock modification was to remove all the passenger accommodations in the lower deck to make room for more chance to take the lifeboats before sinking them. See? But in October 1914, Churchill issued orders that British merchant ships must no longer obey a U-boat a U-boat order to halt and be searched. If they had armament, they were to engage the enemy. Okay, now you see where I'm going with this? This passenger ship was fitted with military armament to go out and be ready for war. But it was a passenger ship. Okay? And like it says right there, it says Churchill issued orders that British merchant ships must no longer obey a U-boat order to halt and be searched. If they had armament, they were to engage the enemy. If they did not, they were to attempt to ram the sub. The immediate results of this change was to force German U-boats to remain submerged for more protection and to simply sink the ships without warning. Why would the British want to do such a stupid thing that would cost the lives of thousands of their own seamen? The answer is that it was not an act of stupidity. It was cold-blooded strategy that Churchill boasted. Okay, now, without reading the entire story, I'm going to tell you what happened briefly. This ship went out as a cruise liner. Okay? And this cruise liner it had how many, let's see, there was 1,195 people on that liner, on that cruise liner, that was fitted for military armament. Okay? So what Churchill did was spread the news that there was a ship out there that was loaded down with military armament, but it was masking as a cruise liner. Okay? And they knew, Churchill was in with our president over here, okay? And we needed to get into this war because of the Depression. And everybody knows, and if you don't, war is money. War means money. It means a lot of freaking money. So by sending that armored, filled, and active ship out as a cruise liner, loaded down with military armament, they knew that that ship would be sunk, and that would be the entrance of the U.S. to World War I. Okay? And that's exactly what happened. They sent that ship out loaded down with armament, and the Germans knew it because they were warned about it, and they sunk that ship and killed, where was it at? 1,195 people in that false flag operation. So we could get into World War I to pull us out of the Depression that we're in. You see what I'm saying? That's the beginning of the story right there. And it's important to understand that every single war that we have ever been in, regardless of you believe it or not, was right before that was a false flag. And the false flag, hi, how you doing this right? That's right. What's up to go? We create a war or we go to war. It's been going on for, yes, centuries. And what we're talking about here is the beginning of the Federal Reserve. Okay, these are stories that led up to the creation of the Federal Reserve. But basically, almost 1,200 people were killed on May 1st, 1915, so that we can get into war. Okay? Now, I don't know where the World War II one is about Pearl Harbor, but that's the same thing. And in a short story on that, the president knew Japan was coming. And why did he know that? Why did he know Japan was coming to bomb Pearl Harbor? They knew it, and they didn't stop it. They could have stopped it. But the reason they didn't stop it is because they needed that false flag to get into war, because we were going through financial problems at that time. See? I mean, it's important to understand that every time there's a big war, there's usually a financial problem right before it. And they knew that Japan was coming to bomb Pearl Harbor. And like I said, they could have stopped it. Okay? But they didn't, because it needed to happen so that the American people would stand behind the government's choice to go to war. And if you kill that many people, the American people are going to stand up, they're going to sign up, and they're going to go to war. And that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. So what they did, what we're talking about, Sandra, right now is how we entered into the World War I and World War II. Right now we're on World War II. And what happened was he found out that Japan was coming. And why was Japan coming? Because we weren't even involved in the war. We weren't even involved in it. Okay? Do you know how we got involved in it? The U.S. government, obviously run by the bankers, did an embargo on Japan. Stopped the oil flow. Stopped metal from going into Japan. Stopped everything from going into Japan. Nothing was able to be shipped to Japan. All bank accounts and everything were frozen. And Japan obviously is not going to win the war if they don't have the means to do that. So the U.S. government, along with the Rothschilds and Rockefellers and all those rich banker guys, got together and said, look, we need to do an embargo on Japan, and that will piss them off, and then they will attack us. And that's what they did. They knew long before Japan was coming to Pearl Harbor to bomb it. I mean, we're talking weeks in advance. We could have stopped it. Our airmen could have shot those planes down. We could have sunk those carriers. That would have been no problem at all. And during that time, they had several brand new ships constructed in Pearl Harbor. And they also had ships that were just recently retired, which one of them was obviously the Arizona. And so what our president did, I think was it Eisenhower at the time? I don't remember who it was. But the fact is, they took all the new ships, pulled them out of the harbor, and sent them packing down the road. So the only ships were in that harbor were the ones that they weren't going to use anyways. They were retired ships. So our government, along with the bankers in this world, killed by not stopping Japan from attacking us. They killed all those Americans in Pearl Harbor. And some of you guys are like, oh my God, I can't believe what this guy's saying. Believe it. It's true. That's exactly what happened. The Information Act, the right to I forget what they call it. So we have the right to read all the classified documents and stuff because we are the American people. So in reading all these documents, I found these truths. And I'm sorry to tell you, our government, along with all those bankers, killed all those people. Okay? For many reasons. And so I'm going to skip right through here and see if I can find that other thing here. It's really important that you guys stick around if you're interested, because I ain't watching Super Bowl. Screw Super Bowl. I'm keeping an eye on the government. That's what I'm doing. So I'm scrolling through. You should read this book. I couldn't put it down. I had it in audio format. So every time I was out working, I was listening to the best enemy money can buy. That's funny. That was a heck of a story added to this book. The Creature from Jekyll Island, just so you know, is the name of the book. I'm trying to find something else really important here. So give me a second. The Tale of Three Banks. Okay, this is important. In the golden days of radio, on the Edgar Bergen show, the ventriloquist would act his dummy. Mortimer Snerd. You guys remember that? Mortimer Snerd? Some of you older people? How can you be so stupid? And the answer was always the same. After a moment of deep thought on the part of Mortimer, he would draw his reply. Well, it ain't easy. When we look at the monetary chaos around the U.S. today, the evaporating value of the dollar, and the collapsing financial institutions, we are compelled to ask, how did we get into this fix? And unfortunately, Mortimer's response would be quite appropriate. Well, it ain't easy. To find out how we got to where we are, it will be necessary to know where we started. And a good place to begin that inquiry is with the Constitution of the United States. Article 1, Section 8 and 10 say, Congress shall have the power to borrow money, no coin money, regulate the value thereof, and of foreign coin, and fix the standard of weights and measures, and to provide for the punishment of counterfeiting. No state shall coin money, emit bills of credit, or make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. The delegates were precise in their use of these words. Congress was given the power to coin money, not to print it. Thomas M. Cooley's Principles of Constitutional Law explains that to coin money is to stamp pieces of metal for use as a medium of exchange in commerce according to fixed standards of value. Are you getting it? The consequences of this enlightened statesmanship were classic. Prices skyrocketed. Legal tender laws were enacted to force... Let's see if I'm on the right page here. Nope, I'm not. Here we go. Value, what was permitted? 310. Sorry, guys. I want to make sure I find the right page. 305, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. See, value. What was prohibited was no emit bills of credit, which, according to the speeches and writings of those who drafted the document, meant the printing of paper, IOUs, which were intended to be circulated as money. In other words, the printing of fiat money, not backed by gold or silver. At first, it would seem that nothing could be more clear. Yet these two simple clauses have become the basis for literally thousands of pages of conflicting interpretation. The crux of the problem is that while the Constitution clearly prohibits the states from issuing fiat money, it does not specifically prevent the federal government from doing so. That was truly an unfortunate oversight on the part of the document's framers. But they probably never dreamed in their wildest nightmares that their descendants could be so stupid as to not understand their intent. Furthermore, it ain't easy to miss their intent. All one has to do is look at the monetary history that led up to the Constitutional Convention and to read the published letters and debates of the men who affixed their signatures to that founding document. As one reads through the debates on the floor of the convention, one is struck by the passion that these delegates held on the subject of money. Every one of them could remember from his personal experience the utter chaos in the colonies caused by the issuance of fiat money. They spoke out against it in no uncertain terms, and they were adamant that it should never be tolerated again in America at either the state or federal level. And that's where we're at right now, folks. We are currently, our government is printing money. Well, they're not printing it. They're borrowing it from a company, a cartel, if you will, of bankers. They are printing this money like it's going out of style. And it has absolutely no value to it. In fact, there is a law in the books, and I can't remember the name of it, but they are the biggest counterfeiters known to man. The Federal Reserve, the people that own that, are the biggest counterfeiters on the planet. They are printing money, loaning it to the United States on the backs of the American people. That's exactly what's going on. So that money that you hold in your hands ain't worth a frickin' paper it's printed on, or the Levi jean material that it's printed on, if you were, or you know. So that's what you need to understand there. That money that's floating around is worth nothing. And people also, they had this this big raise. This, you know, a lot of states had the big minimum wage hike. That's not going to change nothing. That's not going to change a damn thing. All it's doing is showing us how much our dollar is really worth. And I'm telling you right now, we are 2 steps away from a financial collapse. And just like all the wars before, there's going to be another war. Because war is money. So those bankers and our government are going to create another false flag. Just like they did in World War I, killing those 1,200 people on the Lithuania. Just like World War II, when they killed those thousands of people at Pearl Harbor. Just like they did for Vietnam. Just like they did for all the wars. Just like they did for 9/11. That's right, folks. 9/11 was a false flag. Same as the UK. Going to be interesting to see what will happen when they leave the EU. I'll tell you what's going to happen. Total chaos and war. Because these bankers, you know what they want, Andy? What they want is total control of the world's financial institutions. And they have almost complete control of it. They only need 3 more countries. They've controlled the UK banks since, oh gosh, what was that guy way back in the day? The war hero. I mean, we're talking back in the 1400s. What was his name? Son of a gun, I can't believe I can't remember his name. Oh, man. That's, see. The war that destroyed I had to type it because I can't. I can't remember. Oh God, I hate that when I can't remember. He's a really, really popular Genghis Khan. No, it was after Genghis Khan. Anyway, this guy. We were fighting for land or some doggone thing. The war, the 1776 war or whatever. I think it was the war before that or that war. I don't remember. Anyway, England or whatever was told that they either lost or won the war. I can't remember which one it was. I got to look back into my history because I've been doing this tour. I've been out of the books. But when that happened, the stock market crashed over there. And the banking cartel, I think it was Morgan. I think it was Morgan that bought up all the stocks at pennies on the dollar. So now he owns that country. So now he owns the banks, and that's where it all got started. That's where it all got started, man. He ended up buying the country because they thought that they won the war or lost it. I don't remember which it was. But when that happened, the stock market crashed, and he bought up all the stocks of that country. And then, obviously, he controlled the banks, and that's where it all started. And now we're down to 3 countries: Cuba, North Korea, and I think it's Iran. Those 3 countries are the only ones that the bankers don't control. So, if you look at all the wars that are going on, you know, Russia's involved in this and that and the other. That's what it's all about. And it won't be long before the U.S. government does a false flag to get us into war because it's all about money. They've got to reformat our fiat money. They've got to do something. So something big is about to happen, guys. It's been too quiet for too long. So you better get ready. There's no doubt about it. You better get ready. You know, because shit, the proverbial shits, as it were, is going to hit the fan. That's my microphone right there. I was turning it so people on the radio can hear me, because I'm also broadcasting on the radio. So, let's get back to what we were talking about. Especially with Trump. I think he's just wanting... No. See, the thing is, it may be a trick or it may not be. But if you look at Trump, he is more or less a wrench in the plans of the bankers. Because although Trump is a rich man, he is not part of the club. Because he is not a trillionaire. You know, a multiple billionaire, as it were. So the thing is he's not part of that club. He never was part of that club. So everybody hates him because he's going to be pulling money out of the pockets of these politicians that have been taking bribes, you know, in the form of lobbying and all that stuff. They've been taking bribes all these years, destroying our country when they should be working for the people. And that's why they're pissed off at him. Because he's going to stop the money flow. He's going to give the country back to the people. And just like anything great, anything, look into history, just like it says. History repeats itself. But anything great, it has to be torn down and rebuilt. And that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to tear down the crap and rebuild this country the way it should be. So that means all these slackers are going to have to go get a job. See, I don't make a lot of money, and I struggle each and every day to pay my bills, but I don't take a penny from the government. Not one red mother frickin' cent. I go out to the churches if I need food, because that's what they're there for. And that's another thing we're going to talk about. How you were stolen from your mother and father. Anyway, let's get back to this. The first colonial experience with fiat money was in the period from 1690 to 1764. This is a cool story. Massachusetts was the first to use it as a means of financing its military raids against the French colony in Quebec. The other colonies were quick to follow suit, and with a few years were engaging in a virtual orgy of printing bills of credit. There was no central bank involved. The process was simple and direct. It was the reasoning behind it. As one colonial legislator explained it, "Do you think, gentlemen, that I will consent to load my constituents with taxes when we can send to our printer and get a wagon load of money, one quire of which will pay for the whole?" That's when it all started, right there. Freaking amazing. The consequences of this enlightened statesmanship were classic. Prices skyrocketed. Legal tender laws were enacted to force the colonists to accept the worthless paper. And the common man endured great personal losses and the hardship. By the late 1750s, Connecticut had price inflated by 800%. The Carolinas had inflated 900%. Massachusetts 1,000%. Rhode Island 2,300%. The situation was so out of hand that beginning in 1751, the British Parliament stepped in, and in one of those rare instances where interference from the mother country actually benefited the colonies, it forced them to cease the production of fiat money. Henceforth, the Bank of England would be the only source. What followed was unforeseen by the promoters of fiat money. Experience can definitely say, yeah, you need to look at the book. I mean, you'll be glued to it, dude. It's incredible. I'll send you the link to the PDF if you want, but I'll have to do it after the show. The situation was so out of hand that at the beginning of 1751, the British Parliament stepped in, and in one of those rare instances, where I can't talk like that because I don't have my teeth in, British Parliament stepped in one of those rare instances where interference from the mother country actually benefited the colonies. It forced them to cease the production of fiat money. Henceforth, the Bank of England would be the only source. What followed was unforeseen by the promoters of fiat money. Amid great gloom about insufficient money, a miracle boom of prosperity occurred. The forced use of fiat money had compelled everyone to hoard their real money and use the worthless paper instead. Now that the paper was in disgrace, the colonists began to use their English and French and Dutch gold coins once again. Prices rapidly adjusted to reality. You see that? They rapidly adjusted to reality. Fiat money, no matter how you slice it, is never going to succeed. And that's where we're at right now. I think the percentage is like 80 or 90% right now. I mean, it's not the 2,300% that Rhode Island was back in the 1750s. But we're up there. And in fact, let's type it in real quick. What's the U.S. inflation rate? What's the U.S. inflation rate right now? I'm going to throw a percent in there, see if that works. Oh, there's all kinds of stuff. What is the current rate of inflation in the U.S.? Oh, that's bullshit. It says it's 1.1%, but that's bullshit. This one says 2.1%. It's way more than that. It's obvious. I mean, you can look at it. All you have to do is go to the freaking grocery store and you'll know. A pound of burger, 73%. It's like $5. That's inflation. So, again, like I said, what followed was unforeseen by the promoters of fiat money. Amid the great gloom about insufficient money, a miracle boom of prosperity occurred. The forced use of fiat money had compelled everyone to hoard their real money, which was coins, gold and silver, and use the worthless paper instead. Now that the paper was in disgrace, the colonists began to use their English and French and Dutch gold coins once again. Prices rapidly adjusted to reality, and commerce returned to a solid footing. That is the only thing that is going to save the United States, is to go back to a gold standard, because gold holds its value. No matter what, if you have an ounce of gold and it's $1,000, you have $1,000. If it's 2 ounces, you have $2,000. It always holds its value. Whether it goes up or down, metal always holds its value. So it doesn't matter how you look at it. If a loaf of bread is $1, then a dollar's worth of coin will pay for that loaf of bread. If a loaf of bread is $2, $2 coins will pay for that bread. No matter how you look at it, the price never changes. It always levels out. And that's why we need to go to a different currency. The fiat money that we're using right now, the falsely printed, what do they call it again? See? Counterfeit money that they're printing, is putting the United States into a deeper and deeper hole. They're putting the entire world into a deeper hole. Look what's going on across the world. Financial collapses all over the world. I say world. I'm a flat earther. Where's my tin hat? Open your eyes, you'll see flat earth too. Anyway, that's a whole nother ball of wax. I'm reading truth right here. Let's see here. The greatest colonists began the English, French, Dutch colonists. During the strain. See, it remains so even during the economic strain of the 7 Years' War, 1756 through 1763, and during the period immediately prior to the Revolution. There was a perfect example of how an economic system in distress can recover if government does not interfere with the healing process. They think they're fixing shit, but they're not. They're breaking it even worse. This chapter is wartime inflation. Now, for those of you that just joined me, I'm reading out of the book called The Creature from Jekyll Island. But all of this came to halt with the onset of colonial rebellion. Okay, let me read right before that. And during the period immediately prior to the revolution, here was a perfect example of how an economic system in distress can recover if government does not interfere with the healing process. But all of this came to halt with the onset of colonial rebellion. Not only did it open hostilities throw England deeper into the cogs. What does cogs mean? And the wheels of the central bank mechanism. It also was the compelling motive. Somebody burning something out there? Think you burning something? Smells like paper. Anyway. Gears. Burning gears. Yeah. We have our boxing gear and stuff out here. We train boxing and stuff. I don't know if you can see that or not. There's our big boxing thing and our little thing there and our little bob over there. Anyway. It's for training, boxing training. Anyway. All right. Moving right along. But all this came to halt with the onset of colonial rebellion. Not only did the open hostilities throw England deeper into the cogs and wheels of the central bank mechanism, it also was compelling motive for the colonies to return to their printing presses. The following figures speak eloquently for themselves. At the beginning of the war in 1775, the total money supply for the federated colonies stood at about 12 million. In June of that year, the Continental Congress issued another 2 million. Before the notes were printed, another 1 million was authorized. By the end of the year, another 3 million. Then 19 million in 1776, 13 more million in 1777, 64 million in 1778, and another 125 million in 1779. A total of 227 million in 5 years on top of a base of 12 million is an increase of about 2,000%. On top of this, federal money, the states were doing the same in an approximately equal amount. And still more, the Continental Army, unable to get enough money from Congress, issued certificates for the purchase of supplies totaling 200 million. 650 million created in 5 years on top of the base of 12 million is an expansion of the money supply of over 5,000%. Although the economy was devastated by this flood of fiat money, most victims were totally unaware of the cause. In 1777, the sentiment of a large segment of the population was expressed by the words of one patriotic old lady who said, "What a shame it is that Congress should let the poor soldiers suffer when they have the power to make just as much money as they choose." The immediate result of this money infusion was the appearance of prosperity. After all, everyone had more money, and that was perceived as a very good thing. But this was quickly followed by inflation, as the self-destruct mechanism began to roll. In 1775, the colonial monetary unit, called the Continental, was valued at $1 in gold. In 1770, you get that? The monetary unit called the Continental, that's what the dollar bills were, they were called Continentals, was valued at $1 in gold. In 1778, It was exchanged for 25 cents. By 1779, just 4 years from its issue, it was worth less than a penny and ceased to circulate as money at all. It was in that year that George Washington wrote, "A wagon load of money will scarcely purchase a wagon load of provisions." The saying, "not worth a continental," I remember hearing that when I was growing up. That's not worth a continental. Has its origins in this gloomy period. It's crazy, isn't it? And I'm telling you, that's what we're going through right now. Everybody got a raise at work. But I pull into a Filiberto's. My $6.87 burrito, $6.87 burrito is now $8.87. My double Wendy's burger used to be $3.49, is now $5.79 or something like that. It doesn't matter how much money we get paid. The prices will always fluctuate. They don't want to fluctuate. They go up. Same as the UK. Minimum wage went up. But then tax on everything went up. So don't really make a difference. Exactly. It's like they're still making $8 an hour over here. That's just the way it is. Yeah, it says $10 an hour. But when you go to the store and you buy a half gallon of ice cream and it costs $7. You know, when I was a kid, minimum wage was $3.35 an hour. That's how much it was. It was $3.35 an hour. And a can of Copenhagen was chew tobacco. A can of Copenhagen, I think, was 79 cents. 89 cents maybe. So that is basically less than 1/3 of an hourly wage. A pack of cigarettes was basically the same thing. 59, 69, 79 cents. Now, minimum wage is $10. Pack of Marlboros, $8. It's $7.95. You see where I'm going here? What happened to the 1/3? See, a can of chew or a pack of cigarettes costs 1/3 of an hour of work. Now, it's not 1/3. Exactly. See, you see what I'm talking about? And how much is the minimum wage over there now? In EU. I'm waiting on you. I'm talking to for you guys on the radio. I'm talking to a guy via video from the UK. His name is Andy. I'd like to welcome Andy to the show. You should call in sometime, Andy. We'll talk about it. So how much is minimum wage? Okay, $7.50 if over 25. Oh, so you got to be a certain age to make $7.50. Wow. Okay, so it's basically about the same. Okay. So it's more. Your cigarettes are more than 1 hour of wage. Now that is serious inflation. The euro unit or whatever it is. Yeah, I know. You just said I got a few seconds to delay. Okay, so now we're counting. See how long it is. Yeah, there is a delay on the video. I don't know why, but so a pack of cigarettes is €10.50, and minimum wage, if you're over 25, is €7.50. That is negative inflation. Wow. That's crazy, man. Didn't one of the countries over there break away from the central banking system a few years back? I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure they did. Caused a big stink. British pound, not euro. British pound, I'm sorry. Okay, so the euro, the British pound, they're separate now. They were together, right? And then there was a separation. Somebody walked away from the central bank, something like that. Anyway, Scotland tried to, so they didn't get away from it. Oh, that sucks. The true nature of inflation effects had never been more accurately perceived or more vividly described than it was by Thomas Jefferson. Note, British pound have always been its own. Okay. It will be asked, how will the two masses of continental and of state money have cost the people of the United States $72 millions when they are to be redeemed now with just about $6 million? I answer, that difference, being 66 millions, has been lost on the paper bills separately by the successive holders of them. Every one, though I'm sorry I can't read this document, it's kind of hard to read it. it's they've like printed it on a printer and then put it in PDF format. So it makes it kind of, let's see here. Holders of them. Every one, though, whose hands a bill passed, lost on that bill what lost in value during the time it was in his hands. This was a real tax on him. Sorry. And in this way, the people of the United States actually contributed those $66 millions during the war, and by a mode of taxation the most oppressive of all, because the most unequal of all. I could never understand him half the time, Thomas Jefferson. Price controls and legal tender laws. It was natural that people struggled to find ways to escape the destruction of their savings, and the two most obvious methods were: one, to regularly adjust prices upward as the value of the money went downward, or two, exchange their goods and services for only gold coins. In response, the colonial legislators and the Continental Congress did what governments always do to prevent it. They resorted to wage and price controls and to legal tender laws with harsh penalties for non-compliance. Under one such law, those who refused to accept worthless money were even described as traitors. It declared, "If any person shall hereafter be so lost to all virtue and regard for his country as to refuse to accept its notes, such person shall be deemed as an enemy of his country." Allowance up to wow. It's crazy, dude. Rhode Island not only leveled a substantial fine for non-acceptance of its own notes, but upon a second offense, an individual lost his citizenship. When this was declared unlawful by a panel of judges, the legislature reacted by dismissing the judges from office. Taxable income tax rate, personal allowance up to 0%. Higher rate, 43 up to 150, 40%. Holy shit! Additional rate over 150,000 to 45%. Wow, so basically the old saying goes, the more you make, the more they take, right? Wow, that's crazy. Let's see where we at. Level. See, Rhode Island not only leveled its substantial fine for non-acceptance of its notes, but upon second offense, an individual lost his citizenship. So, if you didn't take those notes, you would lose your citizenship. When this was declared unlawful by a panel of judges, the legislature reacted by dismissing the judges from office. And that's what they're due. That's what Trump just did. He fired the attorney general for not obeying his executive order of stopping the influx of immigrants. And, you know, they do what they do to get their way. And that's not right. That's not working for the people. That's not how things work. So, I mean, I don't agree with everything he does, but I do agree with tearing this country down and rebuilding it the right way it should be. Then now, those who suffered the most from fiat money were those who held the most trust in government. How much trust do you hold in government? I hold zero. Zip, zilch, motherfucking nada. That's how much I hold. I don't trust him as far as I can throw him. And I can't throw him, so there you go. In 1777, these were mostly the Whigs. For it was they who patriotically held paper money, as a result, lost their livelihoods and their life savings. The Tories, on the other hand, mistrusting both government and its paper money, passed the bills as quickly as possible in trade for real assets, especially gold. Consequently, as a group, they weathered, word split up and it's half missing. They weathered the storm fairly well. But they often were, see, there's another word I can't read. Anyway, all of this was painfully fresh in the memories of the delegates to the Constitutional Convention. And as the opening session convened in Philadelphia in 1787, there were angry mobs in the streets threatening the legislatures. Looting was rampant, businesses were bankrupt, drunkenness and lawlessness were everywhere to be seen. The fruit of fiat money had ripened, and the delegates did not enjoy its taste. In October 1785, George Washington wrote, "The wheels of government are clogged, and we are descending into the vale of confusion and darkness." A year later, in a letter to James Madison, he said, "No day was ever more clouded than the present. We are fast verging to anarchy." In anarchy, you need to understand this too. That's right. Good deal. Anarchy is not what you think it is. It's not what it is portrayed as. Anarchy is people that believe that they can survive and operate and do whatever they can do without government control. That is true anarchy. So, and the true word is anarchist. So if you do the interpretations and the definitions and stuff, that's what we are. We're anarchists. Anyway. Anarchy. In February of 1787, Washington wrote to Henry Knox, "If any person had told me that that there would have been such formidable rebellion as exists, I would have thought him fit for a madhouse." Just 3 months prior to the opening of the convention, Washington voted his reasons for rejecting the notion of fiat money. In answer to the complaint that there was not enough gold coin to satisfy the needs of commerce, he replied, I can't talk without my teeth. Sorry, guys. The necessity arising from a want of, specie, is represented as greater than it really is. I contended that it is by the substance, not the shadow of a thing, we are to be benefited. The wisdom of man, in my humble opinion, cannot at this time devise a plan by which the credit of paper money would be long supported. Consequently, depreciation keeps pace with the quantity of the emission, and articles for which it is exchanged rise in a greater ratio than the sinking value of the money, wherein this is the farmer, the planter, the artisan benefited. Nobody's benefited by it. Living in a fiat currency system is a fail waiting to happen. It's going to happen. In equal equality great as the door, it immediately opens for speculation, by which the least designing and perhaps most valuable part of the community are preyed upon by the more knowing and crafty speculators. This was the prevailing view held by the great majority of delegates to the convention. They were adamant in their resolve to create a constitution which would prevent any state, and especially the federal government itself, from ever again issuing fiat money. And they said so in unmistakable terms. Oliver Ellsworth from Connecticut, who later was to become our third Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, said, "This is a favorable moment to shut and bar the door against paper money. The mischief of the various experiments which have been made are now fresh in the public mind and have excited the disgust of all the respectable parts of America." George Madison from Virginia told the delegates he had a mortal hatred to paper money. Previously, he had written to George Washington, "They may pass a law to issue paper money, but 20 laws will not make the people receive it. Paper money is founded upon fraud and basic knavery," whatever that is. Fraud and bribery. It's wrong. It's illegal. James Wilson from Pennsylvania said, "It will have the most salutary influence on the credit of the United States to remove the possibility of paper money." John Langdon from New Hampshire warned that he would rather reject the whole plan of federation than to grant the new government the right to issue fiat money. George Read from Delaware declared that a provision in the Constitution granting the new government the right to issue fiat money would be as alarming as the mark of the beast in Revelation. Thomas Paine, although not a delegate to the convention, had written the previous year that he was strongly opposed to fiat money, which he called counterfeiting by the state. And he especially abhorred legal tender laws which forced people to accept the counterfeit. They themselves, our government, has deemed this paper money counterfeit. It's counterfeit, yet we still spend it. So are we committing a crime after the act or after the fact by spending this money? Where are we going? We are doomed. That's exactly what the show is all about. Taking a drink. Give me a second. Now, where was I? Okay. An interesting thought here. If any further evidence is needed that the Founding Fathers intended to prohibit the federal government from issuing bills of credit, consider this. Consider it. The first draft of the Constitution was copied in large measure from the original Articles of the Confederation. I'm going to go get a drink. Stick around for a bit longer. Okay, sounds good. See you in a bit. First draft of the Constitution was copied in large measure from the original Articles of the Confederation. When it was taken up for consideration by the delegates, therefore, it contained the old provision that had caused so much chaos. It stated, "The legislature of the United States shall have the power to borrow money and emit bills of credit." But, after a lively discussion on the matter, the offending provision was voted to be removed from the Constitution by an overwhelming margin. Voicing the sentiment of the majority of the delegates, Alexander Hamilton said, "To emit an unfunded paper as the sign of value ought not to continue a formal part of the Constitution, nor ever hereafter be employed, being in its nature repugnant with abuses and liable to be made the engine of imposition and fraud." The Journal of the Convention for August 16 contains this notation. "It was moved and seconded to strike out the words and emit bills of credit, and the motion passed in the affirmative. The vote cleared by a margin of better than 4-1. The 10th Amendment states, "The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people. The power to issue bills of credit is definitely not delegated to the United States, and it is specifically prohibited to the states. Therefore, if any power to issue fiat money legally exists at all, it is reserved for the people. In other words, individuals and private institutions such as banks have the right to issue IOUs, and I hope the public will use them as money. But government at any level is clearly prohibited by the Constitution from doing so." Incidentally, the Constitution has never been amended on this point, nor has the provision that only silver and gold can be used as lawful money. It would be interesting if each reader of this book would send copies to his or her elected representatives in Washington, or at least a photocopy of this section. Every member of Congress has sworn to uphold the Constitution, and you might attach a short note asking them when they intend to begin. Do not be disappointed if your reply is less than satisfactory. Politicians have a similar problem to that which judges have. It is permissible to rock the boat from time to time, but they are not supposed to sink it. Suits against the government challenging the constitutionality of our monetary system seldom get to court. It is safer for the justices to decline to accept these cases or to dismiss them as supposedly frivolous. Otherwise, they would face a difficult choice. Either they would have to mutilate logic in order to uphold the present inconsistencies, thus opening themselves to possible ridicule, or they would have to declare in favor of the Constitution and literally cause the collapse of the entire deficit spending central bank mechanism. Such an act would take a considerable amount of courage. Not only would they suffer the wrath of the establishment that is nourished by that mechanism, they would also have to face a bewildered public, which, because of lack of knowledge about the Constitution or the nature of money, could easily be convinced that the judges had lost their minds. Likewise, it is safer for politicians to respond to inquiries of this kind merely by quoting some self-serving government document which makes our fiat money system sound quite legal and marvelously constitutional. Unfortunately, that is reality. Until the public becomes considerably better informed, and it is at present, we cannot expect too much from the courts or Congress. Bringing this matter to the attention of your elected representatives, however, it's still well worth the effort, because the process of education has to start somewhere, and Washington is an excellent place to begin. Returning to the point of this discussion, now let's do this. Returning to the point of this digression, however, it is important to know that the federal government was given a precisely limited monetary function to coin money and to regulate the value thereof, in view of the fact that gold and silver coin was specifically defined as the only kind of money to be allowed. There can be no doubt of what was meant by the first half of that power. To coin money meant to mint precious metal coins. Period. The second half is equally clear, both in the Constitution and in the discussions among the delegates. The power to regulate the value of gold and silver coin was closely tied to the power to determine weights and measures. They are, in fact, one and the same. To regulate the value of a coin is exactly the same as to set the nationally accepted value of a mile or a pound or a quart. It is to create a standard against which a thing may be measured. The wording of this section is of the Constitution can be traced to the original Articles of Confederation, which further clarifies the meaning that was generally understood at the time. I got a lot of coins here: copper, silver, gold. Most of our coins don't have any silver in them anymore, Andy. The penny doesn't even have hardly any copper in it either. Even our coin money isn't worth shit. You know? It's crazy. The United States and Congress assembled shall have the sole and exclusive right and power. Wait a minute, I gotta see where I finished that here. Golden coins was specifically kind of money. The second half of the Constitution, weights measured. Oh, yeah, the United States and Congress assembled shall have the sole and executive right and power of regulating the alloy and value of coin struck by their own authority or by that of the respective states, fixing the standard of weights and measures throughout the United States. The intent, therefore, was simply for Congress to determine the exact weight of a precious metal that would constitute the national monetary unit. Now, I'm going to go backwards on this because I want you guys to understand something here. Returning to the point of this digression, this is where I want to start from. However, it's important to know that the federal government was given a precise, limited monetary function to coin money and to regulate the value thereof, in view of the fact that gold and silver coin was specifically defined as the only kind of money to be allowed there. There can be no doubt of what was meant by the first half of that power. You know, there's another thing here that I want to go over again, and it struck me. God, I don't know why I didn't stop. A multilogical order to possible ridiculous. I think not disappointing reply. The Constitution has never been amended at this point. Sorry, guys, I'm looking for something I need to read. Is there a problem which the judges have? And what time is it there anywhere? Anyway, what time is it? They might touch or no, take do not swing national problems of government, but they are not supposed to sink into system selling court decline further. Let's see. Constitution, spending central bank mechanisms such as an act take a considerable amount of courage, not only public, which because of the lack of knowledge, Constitution means that the judge has lost their mind. Dang it! I can't find it. The truth of the amendment states the powers of the delegate United States Constitution, nor permitted by the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. The power to issue bills of credit is definitely not delegated to the United States, and it is specifically prohibited to the states. Therefore, if any power to issue fiat money legally exists at all, it is reserved for the people. I'm going to read it again. The 10th Amendment states, the power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people. The power to issue bills of credit is definitely not delegated to the United States, and it is specifically prohibited to the states. Therefore, this is important, if any power to issue fiat money legally exists at all, it is reserved for the people. In other words, individuals who and private institutions such as banks have the right to issue IOUs. Now, I'm going to read it again. It is reserved for the people. In other words, individuals, you and me, 1 o'clock in the morning, damn. Individuals and private institutions such as banks have the right to issue IOUs, and I hope the public will use them as money. But government at any level is clearly prohibited by the Constitution from doing so. And I'm going to read it again because you guys need to understand this. The 10th Amendment states, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people. The power to issue bills of credit is definitely not delegated to the United States, and it's specifically prohibited to the states. Therefore, if any power to issue fiat money, which is what we carry in our pockets, legally exists at all, it is reserved for the people. In other words, individuals and private institutions such as banks have the right to issue IOUs and hope the public will use them as money. You know what this says? This says you can print your own money, but somebody has to be willing to accept it. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what it says right there. Individuals and private institutions such as banks have the right to issue IOUs and hope that the public will use them as money. Hope. But the government at any level is clearly prohibited by the Constitution from doing so. So they cannot make money. They cannot print money. So they hired a company that named themselves the Federal Reserve. So individuals and private institutions can print money and hope that the people will take it. You're going to the store. Hi, she's going to the store. Bye. Anyway, so what I'm saying to you today, folks, in closing, is that if enough people got together and created their own money, you could spend it. See, it's important. It's like anything. It's your own money. It's your own money. See, that meant I can get a money machine and print it anyway. Yeah, just design your own money. And you got to put your signature on it. You can print your own fiat money. It's what it says right there. Well, in the United States anyway. It says, if any power, this is Constitution, if any power to issue fiat money illegally exists at all, it is reserved for the people. In other words, individuals and private institutions such as banks have the right to issue IOUs and hope that the public will use them as money. It is crazy. We can freaking print our own damn money and pay bills with it. Hi. You going to the store, Sammy?
Yeah.
That's the Dust Bowl Metal Show Princess. Right there. Get up in here. That's my little angel. See how big she's gotten? Isn't that crazy? It's my little girl. All right. Hurry back. Be safe.
Wait.
What?
Can you take us to get something to eat?
No. We're going to eat what we got here. All right. Love you. See you in a bit. Mom's going to have to cook for once. Anyway. So in closing, folks, on this show, enough people get together and agree to accept a certain money, then getting people to accept it is another thing. And I don't get it. I don't get why people don't just stop paying their mortgage. And I'll tell you why real quick. When you bought your home, most people buy it on credit. You know, they make payments. So you buy this home from a bank. The bank gives the people that built the home the money. Okay? So somebody builds a home and it costs X amount of dollars. You want to buy that home for that X amount of dollars. So you go to the bank, and the bank pays the builder electronically X amount of dollars. The money doesn't exist, only electronically. You never seen the money. The builder never seen the money. The bank just sent it out. So essentially, how can you owe money on something that was never even paid for to begin with? Because the money, now if you had $150,000 or whatever, and you went out and paid for your home, hi Norm, you're way late on this conversation. I'm about the end of it. But essentially, if everybody got together, and I talk about this all the time, if everybody got together and just said, you know what? I'm not paying my mortgage anymore. Sorry, I got this straggle hair here. It's tickling my nose. Anyway, gray hairs, they kind of go wherever they want. I'll be 50 in April. Can you believe that? 50 freaking years old. Anyway. So, in short, I'm going to read it one more time. If any power to issue fiat money, this is Constitution. If any power to issue fiat money legally exists at all, it is reserved for the people. In other words, individuals and private institutions, individuals and private institutions, such as banks, have the right to issue IOUs, and I hope that the public will use them as money. But government, at any level, is clearly prohibited by the Constitution from doing so. So, what you get out of this is you can create your own money. You can do it. Now it's up to you to try to figure out how to get people to take it. So, all right, guys. Peace, love, and two in the chest. If you have not donated to the awareness tour yet, please go to dustbowlradio.com, theawareness-tour.com, or GoFundMe.com, The Awareness Tour 2017, and donate, because we are building a community for veterans to get them the mental help they need and to give them another chance and give themselves a better life. Because the government's not going to do it. We, the people, got to do it. Those are our brothers and sisters. Let's help them. All right, till next time, meat bags. We'll talk to you later.